Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for taking time to attend today's webinar. I will try my best to complete this session within 20 minutes, as I know that it is quite difficult to focus on a webinar for more than 20 minutes. The purpose of our session today is to look at key steps to develop a robust and sustainable business continuity plan. We will also take a look at what are the practical practice in executing a BCP. In the current context, when most of us are working from home, I have added 2 slides to share about the various technologies you can use to facilitate a mobile and secure workforce, and also share tips of how your team can be productive when telecommuting. A quick intro about myself. As introduced, my name is Eileen, and I'm the head of IT services for RSM and Stoneforest Group. I am leading a team of IT professionals to develop and execute IT roadmap and BCP for our clients. We are business advisors to growing businesses since 1987. Other than CPA and advisory services, which you may be familiar with us, we also offer non-core support services such as payroll, accounting, and IT services. Without further ado, let's move on with the main agenda for today. I hope the current experience with COVID-19 have had set you reflect whether your organization is really ready to manage downtime and unpleasant disruptions to your customers or your members. Of course, every organization, big or small, is facing a turmoil now, and all of us are on high alert to every news that may prolong this chapter. While we are implementing short-term measures to grapple with the current uncertainties, it is also important to focus on how your organization can emerge stronger after this COVID-19 episode. So what is exactly a BCP? Disruptions to your business can happen at any moment. Business continuity is about having a plan to deal with difficult situations so your organizations can continue to function with as little disruption as possible. A common BCP strategy is telecommuting, which enable your employees to work from home during a critical event. It's a business resilience practice being adopted or expected now during this circuit breaker period. Before I continue further, for the benefits of some of the audience here, I would like to quickly explain what constitutes a BCP. First and foremost, let's take a look at emergency response, which is an organization's coordinated response to a disaster in an effective and timely manner. The goal is to avoid or minimize injury to personnel and or damage to company assets, and which in terms is an immediate damage control measures. Next, disaster recovery plan, or DRP in short, refers to the technology aspects of BCP. It is focused in restoration of information systems for the business. Then this leads us to business continuity plan, which is an organization risk-based plan to develop proactive measures for ensuring and continuing availability of business support systems, which is able to help mitigate disruption risks. In short, DRP is purely focused on the IT infrastructure that can support the business, and what procedures do you have to manage an IT challenge. On a larger scale, BCP is a process of identification and management of the entire business in the event of a change. In summary, BCP is an overall proactive strategy to ensure business continuity. However, it is also important to recognize how your organization wants to come out of a storm depends on how prepared is your organization BCP. Simply just implementing emergency response is not enough to strengthen your organization's resilience to overcome any storm. A good BCP will help your organization react to storm in an orderly manner, quickly restore your business processes, and minimize your losses. BCP is not a plan for us to put aside after the COVID-19 circuit breaker, or give less priority when we choose to believe that Singapore is always less vulnerable to natural disasters than any other Asian countries. On the contrary, BCP is also a proactive measure to ensure business continuity against man-made risks, such as terrorist attack, cyber attack like ransomware, arson, power outage, internet service providers service disruption, food poisoning if you are in the F&B business, and last but not least, equipment or hardware failure, which is very common. In this slide, I will be sharing about 4 steps of devising a BCP. For those of us who already have a BCP strategy, you may wish to evaluate if your plan is sufficient. First of all, you need to identify and assess the risk to your organization. This step should include items related to natural disasters, man-made emergency, or technology-related incidents. This will assist you in identifying the recovery strategies and resources required to recover from disasters within a predetermined and acceptable timeframe. Next, analyze refers to business impact analysis, evaluating its business process to determine which are critical to the operations of your organization. The plan should focus on short-term survivability, such as how do you generate cash flows, rather than on the long-term solution of rebuilding the organization's full functioning capacity. However, your organization must recognize that there are some processes that should not be delayed if possible. An example of this critical process is the processing of payroll to your employees. Step 3 is to develop a BCP strategy. It starts from planning and prevention strategies, responding to disasters, and restoring and rebuilding to the normal state of business operation. Step 4, after you have the visibility of how your BCP should look like, you can form your BCP committee. Define their roles, train your employees, simulate BCP to test your war stories, maintain and update a BCP's documentation. For example, an activation plan, what is there a call tree, what are the equipments that you will need, etc. As the leaders of organizations, you should have clearer visibility and expectations of what your BCP should cover. Thus, the formation of BCP committee is usually done after step 1 to 3 are completed. Let's elaborate further on business impact analysis, which was explained in step 2 in the earlier slide. As shown on this slide, this is a simple business impact analysis documentation and how you should identify and rank your processes which are critical to ensure business continuity. The level of impact of a failed process will guide you to define the right priorities and allocate adequate resources to minimize business downtime. Next, as a rule of thumb, let's take a look at this slide, which helps you to define the level of severity to every business process. Besides defining the severity level, your business impact indicators should include not just assessment of the financial losses, but it should impact on your contractual obligations to your members, volunteers, donors, and also impact on the regulatory compliance required in charities. After understanding what it takes to devise a BCP and the considerations for the business impact analysis, let's take a step back to look at 4 broad areas which you should consider in your BCP. From our consulting experience, there are 4 areas which are commonly seen in any BCP strategy, namely business applications, data security, infrastructure, and compliance. Let's take a few minutes to run through very quickly. Business applications considerations will drive you to identify mission-critical systems which are time-sensitive and evaluate if these applications would need to be migrated to the cloud in the near future. And if so, what is the acceptable downtime and age of the data backup? Note that cloud applications are also not 100% foolproof or making available at all times. Next, on data security. Besides encryption, how can we reduce data corruption when we are performing processes from different locations? Thus, allowing your staff to access cloud applications using their personal equipment, a cause of concern for you over data security. Then, coming to infrastructure, let's ask ourselves, is it advisable to install VPN on employees' personal laptop? Especially now when laptops are very scarce in the market, you probably would be desperate and ask your employees to use their own personal laptop, which you have installed VPN. Do you know that this increases the data security risk? In times when physical access to office is restricted, like now, do you have a ready command post for stakeholders just to communicate on urgent priorities to maintain business continuity? Lastly, for compliance, ask yourselves that whether you have any control over personal data portability. For those who are handling personal data, do you meet the criteria spelled out under PDPA? Do you have special arrangement which can lead to heavy penalty when you are unable to fulfill your obligations to the donors or the volunteers and employees? So in short, these 4 areas must be carefully considered and tested when you get your BCP Act together. With the 4 areas to consider, do also take note of the 2 terms in your plan. Recovery time objective, RTO, is the targeted duration of time and service level with which a business process must be restored after a disaster in order to avoid unacceptable consequences associated with a break in business continuity. Simply, this means your tolerance level for business downtime. Whenever I say this to my clients, they will always raise their eyebrows and comment that one should have 0 tolerance for downtime. This comment will no longer be true once the clients come to terms that this implies a high investment to maintain an infrastructure to support 0 downtime. Depending on the nature of organization and budget for your BCP, the RTO should range from 4 to 72 hours. Any RTO beyond 72 hours should be seriously re-evaluated. On the other hand, RPO is the age of files that must be recovered from backup storage in the event of an IT challenge. For example, if your RPO is 1 hour, it implies that you need to perform your backup once every hour. Due to time constraints, I will not be able to elaborate what you should include in your BCP. So I have provided this slide that can guide you to draft a sample BCP or DRP. From our experience in projects with our clients, the 3 highlighted points, okay, in the red colored arrows are important baselines for you to consider when to prioritize your BCP resources and budget. In our current context, when most of us are working from home now, I thought of adding 2 slides, okay, to explain or share commonly used technologies which you may need to support your BCP needs, and how you can enable or energize your employees working from home. Firstly, let's take a look at essential telecommuting technologies which you should invest. Other than basic communications solutions like emails, messaging options like WhatsApp, WebEx, WeChat, you may need to consider secured mobile device management for your emails. Just remember that configuring Outlook on your mobile without security is definitely not recommended, especially if you are handling a lot of personal data information over emails. Next, video conferencing tools like what we are doing now for Zoom, Microsoft Teams, which can be used selectively to replace face-to-face meetings and conferences, You should also explore project management tools, which you can use to monitor and manage resources to complete work plans on time when everyone is working remotely. Last but not least, security and remote access tools, such as VPN with one-time password, remote desktop connection for accessing on-premise applications, and so on. So just remember this diagram that there are several areas that you should look at when telecommuting from home. Like some of you who are providing essential services, so for us, IT continues our business as usual during the circuit breaker period. As a service firm who takes high pride in our service quality, we have implemented these guidelines for all our 1,500 employees who are working from home. We believe such guidelines will not only ensure service continuity, but also maintain consistent and professional levels of service to all our clients. A few important highlights which I personally find it useful. The first one is always get ready for work. How you are dressed for work at home will subconsciously affect how you can service your members. If you are dressed up for video conferencing, you will always display the always ready attitude to your members. Second point, separate family work from work life during office hours. This is a discipline which we cannot undermine. The discipline of strictly abiding to the office hours to handle business matters is a critical point, especially when you are serious to emerge as a stronger organization after the COVID-19 chapter. Scheduling regular face-to-face meetings to foster closer working relationships with your employees, members, volunteers, and corporate partners are important. There is no doubt about adding visual contact as it will enhance trust and confidence. Lastly, remember to pamper yourself at the end of every workday. Besides reviewing your accomplishment at the end of the day, it is important to find ways to reward yourself. This is an important step as leaders that we can do for ourselves to maintain and sustain a healthy mindset and attitude in navigating through these challenging times. After understanding how to execute the BCP, I would now want to reiterate the need for any organization to sustain this BCP after emerging from the COVID-19 storm. Here, I wish to reiterate, for every charity to grow in this VUCA future, you need to recognize that maintaining BCP is an important function for any organization. It is more effective to start from the need to change our perception on the existence of BCP. In other words, BCP should not be seen as a cost. It must be seen and regarded as an investment of your organization. Consider integrating BCP into every business decision. This means ask questions and find answers to possible loss of key personnel, dependency on key members, or corporate partners, which can directly impact the survival of your business, of your charity. Then always consider disaster recovery strategy in your IT plans. With this, I want to pause and highlight that it is not true that there is no need to devise DRP when one is adopting cloud solutions, because cloud solutions are not 100% accessible at all times. Of course, you must be disciplined to update BCP documentation and commit resources to conduct BCP simulation tests, or what we call a BCP drill, annually. As mentioned at the beginning of this slide, for any charities to grow during this VUCA market, you must embrace BCP as an important function in your charity organization. For those of us who are not so familiar with VUCA, VUCA is actually an acronym that stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, a combination of qualities that, taken together, characterize the nature of our current tough market conditions. We have come to the last slide for this webinar today. With the last few slides of the webinar today, with BCP integrated with your business decisions and considering disaster recovery strategy in your IT plans, it is likely that you need to adopt technology transformation within your organization. Such technology transformation may be eligible for grants or scheme to help defray your investment. As shared here, there are always avenues for charities to seek experts' advice, assistance, and even investment to expedite your digital transformation plan. So if you take a look, MCCY, NCSS, and iShine Cloud are some possibilities you can consider. Without forgetting that we also have giving.sg, that is a campaign page to support your donation. And if you have any questions, you can just approach NVPC for details. I have come to the end of my webinar for